Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Monster Hunter World Iceborne, where I'm going to be doing a heavy bowgun DPS check versus Safi'Jiiva. Heavy bowgun has been my first and favourite weapon since Monster Hunter 1. It's also a very prominent favourite among a lot of people now in Iceborne, simply because of how powerful it is. So, utilising Jinjin's and Tuna's builds, because that's where most people are going to go, for Pierce 3, Spread 3, Normal 3, Sticky 3 and Cluster, as well as Sticky 3 and Poison 2, I have done a simple DPS check by utilising a mod, because I feel like the visualisation of it is going to be a lot easier for people to understand and a lot easier for me to show, rather than crunching out and showing you all the numbers and the damage calculations. People are going to respond more for the actual after all results. So I am using their builds for the Crimson Kodachi, Stygian Humilitas, Soulfire Raw Sticks, Rajang Destroyer and the Madda Gemitus Vulcan. How I have done this is quite simple. It's going to be up for either the duration of the buffs, the Rocksteady Mantle, or a chain in which I have managed to get through KOs, trips, etc. So it's going to be sort of a you'll win some, you lose some. It's not going to be pitch point perfect. But how we have done this is quite simply, I am running a Rocksteady Mantle. My lovely assistant, my wife, Jenny Bicky, who you can see on, well, you can see her name, is basically standing directly behind me, so that I basically have the constant focus of lovely old Safi'Jiiva here, and I'm just gonna unload everything I've got, utilising the best builds they have for this situation. For example, the Safi'Jiiva build for Pierce, although it's not recommended, oddly, is the 95% affinity without utilising weakness exploit. So you can see I'm getting a lot, and I do mean a lot, of crits. Most of it is a collection of ones, and to make use of this, you're really going to have to make use of a team that's going to tenderize a lot. Overall damage per Rocksteady Mantle was about 4,851, which was a lot higher than I thought it would be. It was, personally, felt it wasn't really too bad. Up next was the Stygian Humilitas, which is the overpowered spread heavy bowgun. Main drawback I found of this is you really are going to want to focus on a weak point or a tenderized point. Head being the main one that you almost predominantly go for. This thing waves its head around like a drunk man taking a piss. Honestly, I feel if the thing was stood still, it would have equated to more damage. But from where you are having to get within that critical range of spread, that close range, it was a little bit of a drawback, and you couldn't quite keep up overall, which was really annoying. And the end result was actually worse than Pierce. I felt like I had a lot more knockback and a lot more stun capability with the spread, but I didn't feel like the damage was there at all. I kind of felt a little bit underwhelmed overall by the spread, despite it being the max DPS build. So far, 1-0 to the Pierce, really. It did win overall. I mean, you can check the numbers for yourself. They are on screen. Just put it to full screen. But although it wasn't by much, Pierce did win, albeit just under 300 damage. So up next was the normal 3. I went with the sticks rather than the nerg. Due to the issues I had with spread, I figured that sticks has greater variety or damage consistency over a greater range, where the nerg heavy bowgun really does shine at sort of the close range or the closer range parts. So I thought I'd eliminate that by going with the potentially the greater damage consistency over a moving target, really, which was what Safi was going to be. Tenderized the head and started to wail on it. Damage was starting out to look pretty good, got some pretty decent-ish high numbers. going from 70s to some of them being 90s. Low end was in the 50s. It really did seem to be doing quite well. There's a fair chunk of pushback as well against the Safi'Jiiva, but again, I just kind of really did feel it fell short. And as well as, one thing I definitely was looking for was sort of team compatibility. If I am doing this, what am I giving to my team? So far, neither Spread, Pierce, or even Normal were really offering me too much in the way of team utility. This potentially could be a decent-ish way, if you had enough ammo, to solo, or if not, two-man Safi'Jiiva if you had the capability or the skill. But Normal again fell short, even just a little bit underneath Spread with 4,511. So we went with the Rajang Destroyer, whacking out all those stickies with a little bit of clusters when we could fit them in. Not really too used to using a sticky cluster setup, especially in something like these sieges for Monster Hunter. More of a, I don't know, a Hame run, Behemoth for example. That was when the clusters used to come out. So I have messed up a lot of my crafting technique here, and I do apologise. That's possibly slowed me down a good chunk. However, already got 1 KO, which is going to allow people to get the tenderizer points in, a little bit more DPS, a little bit more utility, time up for people to heal, sharpen, whatever you need. Don't typically run Rocksteady, I'm using it just so that we can just maintain a constant DPS at base with a few buffs. Typically I will be running Evasion Mantle and Impact. Evasion Mantle lets you get a lot of that damage in quite early on, and obviously there's a cooldown, so if you can get it again later. But after you've got those few KOs and few trips and stuns or whatever else you need, and they diminishing return means that you need to deal a little bit more. I find Impact Mantle just gives you that edge just so you can start getting that back in. But overall, so far at this point, despite the fact that I'm sat here taking a ton of damage and peak performance is going absolutely nuts, I really did feel like Sticky Cluster was doing its best. And even after Rocksteady Mantle ran out, just because I got that KO, I felt worthwhile just to show that's 2 KOs. You can go back to clusters and get a little bit more damage in before you get fragged. Overall damage here is near enough 2,000 more in one chain than any other. Sticky Cluster leading the way with 6,517. Up next is one that genuinely surprised me. We've all heard that Safi'Jiiva is stupid weak to poison. Like, very stupid weak to poison. I wasn't expecting 100 damage for 41 ticks though. And no, I'm not joking. So this is the Magda Gemitus Vulcan, the maxed out Zora Magdarus heavy bowgun. A little bit behind on overall damage with stickies and clusters, but you still can utilise both, although stickies are going to be your main damage form. The recoil does get a little bit annoying and the reload really does slow you down, but overall DPS, rather than doing shot auto reload, shot auto reload, you can smack out 4 quick consecutive sticky 3s into the monster's head pretty accurately, pretty efficiently, and move in from there. Just mind the reloads, and when you get the KO, you can swap to clusters for a little bit of extra DPS. Just make sure you aim a little bit higher on the monster, because you don't want to be knocking your team back, because this really is going to be one hell of a DPS fight. You're going to need to break those parts and get through the quest quickly and as efficiently as possible, which does mean you are going to want those lovely deeps. Overall though, honestly, I could not stress enough how much of a difference just using poison made. For example, sticky damage and a bit of cluster damage alone equated to 5,310. The poison procs alone were 4,100. Together, that's 9,410 damage. If you are a heavy bowgun main, or you like your heavy bowgun, this is the way you go. Anyway, that is me. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has helped, or is going to help a lot of people. But in the meantime, have fun, good luck, and don't die. It's bad for the health.